Welcome to the Variety After Show. I'm Audrey Yap. I'm the news anchor and a writer reporter for Variety.com. Tonight we're going to be joined by none other than Wong from Nora from Queens. The episode, it just wrapped up on the East
Yeah.
Coast. First of all, just tell me what it was like to be a part of this show. And really, what I think is so special about it is that this is a multi-generational Asian American show.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I had a lot of different experiences with different Asian American casts and different Asian American actors, of course, over the years. And this one was very special to me, and I really enjoyed it very much. And it had a very unique energy to it. I think that's because Nora's energy is really completely not like anybody else's energy. I mean, her as a performer, as a personality, across the board, one of the reasons why I think we're all so drawn to her and she's so popular is because her energy is so different. And so for that to be the kind of center point for the whole show to surround creates a really unique situation. And I feel like I don't know, we just, we were able to be a part of something that was was definitely not something that hadn't been done before, but it was something that was done in a new, fresh kind of way.
Let's talk about the episode tonight because I think it
Uh-huh.
touches on something really important, which is if you are, I don't know, first or second generation American, and then you go back
Uh-huh.
to the country of your ancestors or your parents or your grandparents, there is that disconnect. There
Oh
is
gosh, yeah.
that kind of that crevice that you can't really you can kind of stand at this really interesting place.
Yeah.
And the episode spoke to identity. Tell me a little bit about that and then that theme and how it resonated with you.
Well, this is like I mean, for me, this is a really resonant theme. I'm really into this. Whenever I see it in plays or whenever I see it touched on in any way by Asian American artists, I'm really moved by it because it's something that can, if you're a young person, it can really take you off guard because you might have been brought up in a way that would make you assume that when you went back, you would feel something. Like you would feel something really home-like. And the experience is different for everybody. I'm sure some people go back and feel home like, but I have heard and I first personally felt that going there's a real kind of sense of separation that I don't know what you're actually expecting, but it's not what you're expecting, and there's a kind of a disillusionment that can happen, and yet there's also a kind of enlightenment that you can experience because of it. You can kind of get a perspective on things because there's also a kind of sense that I think that she feels she's really in a really interesting position in the show because she's talking to this, Caucasian, like American guy who's kind of makes a bad impression as an American, and then
And
she's
we've
kind of
all
guilt by
seen that
association.
before. I think we've
Oh
seen
yeah,
that
it's a
before.
real
If you've
thing.
traveled, it is a real thing. I think
Yeah,
that's what made it feel so real. Sorry, but continue. So she
yeah, yeah.
meets
No,
this
of
this
course.
caricature, which
Yeah.
we've met that person in real life.
Yeah. And so she's feeling that kind of guilt by association. She realizes that she's more like him than she is like Grace or the other people in the office. She's more like him for
Right.
whatever reason. She's the girl, she gets them at parties with them and all of that stuff. She's whatever. And so the way that I see it now, just as I'm talking about it, is that I see it kind of lends a certain perspective. It certainly lends her a perspective that allows her to be happy about going home. Like when she goes back home, she doesn't feel in this particular episode, she doesn't feel defeated or like she's failed. Actually, she feels like she's home and she's happy to be there.
Right.
And that's a nice thing. And I think that speaks to the writers and Nora Awkwafina's sensibility about a certain kind of pride that we feel being of of Asian Americans or Chinese Americans who are taught to kind of honor the root culture. I think we, in some ways, compared to some of the people that I've grown up with, I feel more attached to the root culture or connected to it or bound to it or um, obligated to it than some of my Caucasian friends do to their European cultures. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
don't feel as and I'm not making, blanket statements, but I do feel like the Asian kids that I grew up with and the Asian people that I are hanging out with now all feel a kind of a, a, a connection that our parents gave us to it. But that connection does not mean that it's really our country, if you can imagine. You know, it's something in our DNA that connects us to it, for sure.
Right.
But then when we kind of get perspective, we do realize we're Americans, and then we're happily so, Um, and of course, now we're talking about a lot of really horrible, ugly, anti-Asian sentiment that's just flying around that exacerbates that, that kind of really makes you think, gosh, this really, this particular point of view that we have is really, it's very hard for people to kind of understand or relate to it. The idea that you'd kind of get on the subway and someone would blame you for this whole thing that's happening now, that we're all kind of having to separate from one another, and that the president calls the virus the Chinese virus and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because this is something that a lot of the Asian American community has been talking about.
Yeah.
Zai Ma actually shared a story, a really horrifying story with me about going to the grocery store, and this was in February, and someone telling him that he should be quarantined,
Yeah.
and just being verbally attacked, in other cases, like you said, physically attacked. How are you feeling? You're in New York. We've heard stories coming out of there. Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe walking out of your house? You know.
Yes, but at the same time, I don't know. It's like a qualified kind of safe, you know. I've heard so many of these stories, and I really think that I'm glad that people are sharing these stories, because these stories have create the reality of it for people. People don't really understand what they're talking about unless a person with a face puts their face, attaches it to a real story, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so Tai Ma is doing that, and we can go, oh my gosh, a person that I know from the media is experiencing thing. And so I have lots of friends and people that I know and people that are my Facebook friends and all of that, all just one after the other, story after story of them having encounters with people in public because of the ignorance that people are carrying with them about why what kind of a threat an Asian person might be to their health or not, the
Right.
ignorance that is all surrounding that. So, I go out and I feel a little bit apprehensive about it happening to me. It has not happened to me. I'm trying not to go out. First of all, that's one thing. I'm really staying home.
Same.
But
I've been the same.
yeah. And so then, but yesterday I had to go to an emergency dentist appointment because I had a root canal. That's a long
Oh
story.
wow.
But I had to go out, and I was like, kind of apprehensive about looking people in the eye, or so
Yeah.
there is a sense of and I shouldn't, you know what, even if I'm not afraid or whatever, as you described, I shouldn't have to feel that way. I shouldn't have to feel apprehensive about looking people in the eye. I should be able to just, because one of the things that I like to do is kind of conjoin with, not conjoin physically, but to appreciate the situation we're all in. Like you nod to someone who's across the street when you're walking on an empty street, and you go, yeah, we're in this, we're both doing this. I know you're by
Yeah.
yourself and I'm by myself. To try to maintain some kind of connection to them in this time when we're all doing something that feels so different to us. It's all so out of our routine, and so I don't mean to go on about this, but it's interesting, and so I'm not able to do that, to that kind of connection that I might have with somebody, to kind of enjoy the human part of this experience. You know how, like, in the good version of this would be in New York when it snows, and then everybody goes outside in the snow, that first big snow, and it's quiet because none of the cars are out there, and everybody's kind of out there at the same time, and they're sharing this experience together. And you look at one another, you don't know the people, but you just kind of go, oh my gosh, isn't this wild what we're doing right here, right now? You can't have that experience when you're afraid that someone's going to um, be mean to you or something like that, or exercise some kind of discrimination, of course.
Absolutely. Um, with all this happening then, like, what do you think is the place of art and TV
Oh my
and,
gosh.
you know, at a time like this, especially it's affecting a very specific community?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still so fresh. This whole thing is so fresh still that we don't know what is going to happen. That's for sure. But I do believe, as always, I mean, whenever something bad happens in the world, I think, oh my gosh, the art is really going to show us something really interesting now. And whenever we're forced to um, reevaluate in a big way something like, uh, do I have a dog? No,
Sorry.
don't know.
That would be my guard
Um,
Shih Tzu.
yes,
So
yeah.
I apologize.
No, but whenever there's a paradigm shift of some kind, when and the artists are forced to not, there's going to be new ways of art being expressed. There's going to be new ways of art being created in this environment. If it goes on for any amount of time, even this briefest amount of time, people are already using social media and lots of different ways of expressing themselves artistically
Yeah.
and performing and stuff like that. And that's actually inspiring and heartwarming and great. And so where that would take us as this goes on, or it gets worse or whatever, I have no idea. But I do know, I believe in the spirit of creativity in that way enough to kind of be excited about that aspect of it, to kind of be like, wow, this is going to be really interesting to see how artists express themselves and what kind of rage or frustration or fear that they will express in their work from now on, and how their work will be different because it won't be this regular kind of work that we can consume the same way that we would consume it. And we would gather in masses to usually appreciate a person's art. And since we're not doing that, what will we do instead?
Right. You get to work with such a talented cast on Nora from Queens. We mentioned Aquafina. I mean, we can't forget Lori Tanchin. We can't
No.
forget Bowen Yang,
Yeah,
who is. So, what
on
was it
fire.
like? On fire, exactly. What
Yeah,
was it like? Working again with this multi-generational cast, but also with these this fresh comedic talent
yeah.
that's really making its mark in Hollywood right now.
I have to say that I grew up as a young actor feeling like casting directors and producers would say to us a ways back, Asian people are not funny. They would, I'm going to cry saying it. They, this is a thing that would happen. And we had, for many years, a reputation of not being able to break through that that misnomer at all. I mean, there's always been pioneering people like Margaret Cho and many Asian American people who proved that not to be true.
And
But there was a
yourself. Let's not
reputation
let's
of,
not discount
well,
and yourself.
whatever, yeah, okay. But and I mean, I know that whether I was successful or not, I know I tried to. And the point is that these four actors came together, and there was something really synchronistic about it for me. One is that I knew Lori from a long time ago. Lori is playing my mom. She's not old enough to be my mom, but she's playing my mom, and I've known her and I've thought of her as an auntie for many years. She looked out for me when I was first starting out in as an actor in New York, and she was in my first Broadway show and really looked out for me. And so I've always wanted her to have that opportunity that let her really be herself, and this is definitely it. And then Nora and Bowen are just reinventing the definition of what it means to be an Asian person and funny, and how those two things can exist in the same person's body. And I think that that's really super exciting to watch as you're watching it, as you're watching them connect their own dots, as you're watching them put those dots out there for the public, and for the public to be like responding to it and kind of catapulting them to stardom. It's kind of exciting. So the four of us have all different kinds of points of view and experiences and sensibilities, and there's something that kind of meshes about it, I guess. And I really like that. I love it. I can't wait to go back and do another season of it because I enjoyed it so much. It was really easy to do and really fun to do.
And with such a talented cast, I imagine it would be super fun.
Yeah,
Wally, who you play, and that's Nora's dad.
yeah,
Before we jumped on, I said, that one of the co-stars is really Wally's hair. in this
Yeah, I
show.
know. Yeah, Wally's hair. Yeah, yeah.
That's some good hair. It's some good hair on that
It's really
show.
well. The real Wally has really good hair. The real Wally is
Oh, you
got
met the real Wally.
he's oh yeah, 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 of
Okay.
course. I mean, and he is like a product of the 70s who is very proud of his kind of um 70s vibe that he has kind of, and he has a great head of hair, and he probably has worn the same haircut for the better part of his grown up life. It still looks great. It's the same, it's very classic kind of 70s haircut. And I was doing Mr. Robot at the same time. I was going back and forth shooting both shows, and so I had
Talk
to
about
figure out
two
a
very
way.
different roles, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
I mean, if you
I
want
was
to talk
wearing.
about like some kind of whiplash, that is.
Yeah.
And for
Oh
anybody
yeah,
who
there was like
hasn't seen, I mean, please check out Mr. Robot. It was a wonderful show.
thanks.
White Rose is
Yes,
one of the most fascinating characters I think ever in
thanks.
recent memory. So, sorry, you would go back and forth between Mr. Robot and this show then.
Yeah, yeah. So of course that means that your hair has to be very specifically kind of designed for each thing. You have to really be careful about it. You can't just like I had a very severe haircut in one of my manifestations of White Rose, and so that had to be that way. It couldn't, that couldn't be faked. So to make a long story short, there was a lot of kind of calculation done, and this hairpiece that I wore for Wally evolved over the season. I don't know if you can tell. The way that he kind of he settled into it over the season, and by the end of it, it's actually really very nice. And like I said on Instagram today, it really grew on me. I really I really like it became part of who he was.
Yeah.
Part of his kind of very specific his age, his sensibility, where he came from, all of that. It just seems kind of right now.
And he's not a stereotypical like TV. I mean, he's not a stereotypical Asian dad, but he's not even a stereotypical like TV dad, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. What is he? I don't know. He just seems kind of like he just kind of came out that way, and I don't know. I mean, they wrote a part of a guy who's having his own thing going on, but also has a thing with her that he's trying to kind of feeling his way through it. And I find it very sweet, actually. I really like them together. I really like I watch it and I feel, oh yes, I'm rooting for him. I guess is how I feel.
Yeah.
You're rooting for because he has his own struggles or his own loneliness or whatever it is. And he is a guy, he says once in the whole season, I'm a guy that's living with my mother and my grown daughter in a house. What can that be like? What kind of life is that really like? So you do feel a little, if you're really into tuning into all of that, you do feel a little bit of that yearning in him to get something to date somebody or to have his daughter and his mom be happy and not throw them out or whatever, but still to have his own happiness. It's just kind of come around in the first season that he kind of went after his own happiness a little bit, and it's really nice.
So out of the many TV, film, and theater roles that you have had, what do you think you get recognized the most for?
Well, Um, I think for sure because I was on Law and Order SSB for 11 years. So you can't be on something for 11 years and not have it be the thing that is what people. I mean, there's just if you add up numbers of people that watched it, there's just too many people.
Still
So
watching
does
it,
it
by the
it,
way.
it that's right. That's right. Yes, thank goodness. And I never I don't know. I don't I I don't. I liked being on it, and but it would never be the thing that I would sell myself if I had to kind of go to a foreign. If I had to go to another planet and sell myself as an actor to the population there, who didn't know anything that I'd ever done. That wouldn't be the thing that I would really use to sell myself, except for the fact that it had staying power for me, that it was a long-term thing, that it was a gig that lasted a long time, and that people really they felt like they got to know him very
Yes.
well, and they really were really comfortable with him. I used to get very somewhat kind of impatient with people who liked him a lot. Who liked him because I thought, what do you like about this person? I felt like he could have had so much more to him. I wanted to know about his personal life, or I wanted to see him in other contexts. But this
Sure.
show does not really do, that's not the kind of vibe of this particular
He
show.
needed his own spin-off show. That's what you're saying,
He,
right? Yeah,
I,
he
well, I
definitely
mean, yeah, he
maybe
needed,
or
sometimes, on a show like that, every once in a while, he shakes things up. An episode becomes about one of the other characters, not the main two or whatever. And the ones that they kind of featured him in, they didn't really do a lot for his own story. They just kind of gave him more to do, which is okay. It was great. But what I'm saying is, I thought, well, who is this person that these people think that they know? That's what I'm getting at. And the people
yeah.
would say, well, he really comforted them. They like his voice. They like the way he talks. They like the fact that when he comes in, there's a sense of order that comes he's the order part of the Law and Order, right? He brings a sense of like calm to the situation by explaining something that seems completely crazy. And whenever somebody does that, you feel um, your heart rate goes down when they come in the room or come into the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, good
And I think
bedside
that that's
manner. Good
nice.
bedside
Yes,
manner.
yeah. And literally, bedside manner, people go to sleep watching the show and feel relaxed somehow, that like I'm hypnotizing them or something. I don't know. It's like they people have said they get really, it relaxes them. His personality relaxes them. My personality would
Got
never
it.
actually relax them, but his personality seemed to relax them.
So, so what would Dr. George's advice be for us as we get through this
Oh,
pandemic, as we are self isolating and social distancing right now?
well, I think that human beings are really uh, not used to change, and they're not used to doing something that's completely outside of their routine. And so this is something that is forcing them to do that. But really what it is we're also all asked to do the same thing, and we're all asked to do it with the same level of commitment. We're asked, most of us are being asked to stay home, and those of us who are being asked to work are being asked to put themselves on the line to continue that work. And the anxiety comes from the sense of the unknown. And I would really suggest that people try to stay in the moment that we're in. Because I think when you think into the future and worry about what's going to happen in August or what's going to happen in November, it's not a good way to get through the day, actually. The way to get through the day is just by kind of uh, taking care of the things that you are in control of. And one thing that I'm in control of is going out or not going out for the most part, except when I had a toothache. And so I think in terms of calming people down, I would say we're all in it together. And I think that's, I'm a little weird though, because, I'm kind of like, this could be the end of the world. And if it's the end of the world, hey, you guys, that's the end of it. That's it. There's no like, there's no like
Dr.
ramping
George
up
would
to
never
it.
say this. He would never say
No,
this to
yes, that's
us.
right. He would never say that. But I feel like it's possibly a lesson in kind of acceptance. Like this is the situation we're in. We have no control over the facts or the way that they're being dealt with by some people, and we have to do our best as a humanity and as a civilization and as a community to get through that. So all we have is each other, actually, and I think that that's nice that we do
I
in
think
whatever
that's a
way,
great.
by nodding at someone across the street, or by putting cookies outside somebody's door that can't answer the door, or something like that. We still can do these things, and our connection as humans does not stop because we're having to stay home.
I love that sentiment. Do you have time to take a couple fan questions if I pull them
Oh yeah,
up?
sure, sure, sure.
Okay, let's see. Hopefully this is going to work. Okay, I love this question. Do you
All right.
see any parallels between White Rose and Wally? That's a great question.
Really good hair. Okay, really good hair. And wait, now can I get this is just up and then it's gonna stay up? I'm
Sorry,
looking
I'm
at
going
it.
to try to
No, no,
X
no,
it
I just wonder.
out.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
it's okay. I
Oh,
just wonder.
sorry.
I'm just like narcissistic enough to need to see my face to make sure that it's
Yeah,
not
so
that.
the questions kind of stay up. So if you want to
Yeah, that's
back
fine.
up a
It's
little
fine.
bit.
No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 I don't mean to complain. Um, no, there's clear, of course, it's a funny question. There's not a lot of parallels really. They have a very simply different kinds of sensibilities about everything. But I guess, um, well, we're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for the thing that allows us to be who we really are inside. And they both are definitely doing that. And this is a Wally is a guy who's a dad whose wife died very early. He's been in mourning for many, many years. He's got a daughter that lives with him and his mother, and he just wants to be a middle-aged guy that does what middle-aged guys do. And White Rose is somebody who grew up a certain way with a certain amount of pain around her and about a lot of misunderstanding and rage, and is trying very hard to do the thing that they're doing to make to be who they are, to live the life that they're supposed to live, that they know is true to themselves. So that's a sliver of a thing. But who doesn't have that, right? We all have that.
Yeah. Let's see if there's another one that I can find up here. A lot of great. You're amazing. Well, of course.
Oh
Like this one.
yeah.
We have to do favorite line of White Roses.
Oh. Well, really my favorite lines are the ones that resonate the most with the fans. And so the first one that resonates with the fans the most is don't mistake my generosity for generosity. That's on that I have on a mug. And um that's the main one. And then the other one that doesn't really mean anything, that doesn't go on a mug very well, is don't make me laugh, or don't make me fucking laugh. Um,
That's a good one.
but that's just in the context of a whole scene. That was a really good scene, not necessarily because it's
Yeah.
such a great line on its own. Um, those are the two, I think. I mean, there were
Yeah.
lots of really good ones.
Let's see. Uh, I think this is a great one and very, very relevant. This is from Gina Chong. Do you have any advice for
Hey,
Asian actors trying to break into the industry? I love you so much. Heart
hey,
emojis.
that's so nice, Gina Chong. I do, and I was told when I started that it was almost impossible, and that if I could think of anything else to do, I should do that, and that I should not do this unless it was the only thing I could possibly imagine doing with my life, and that I loved it and wanted to do it so much. And I've always stuck by that. I mean, that is what I did. When people said that, and I processed it in my brain, and I thought, is that true of me? I could come to the conclusion that it was. Now, when I was a young person, there's so much confusion about any number of very varying issues that you can't you be 100% sure sometimes how you feel, whether
Sorry,
your feelings are true.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to get back to
you're.
me. Sorry about
Oh, nobody. No,
that.
it's okay.
You see my
We get to see your tchotchkes though. That's nice.
yes.
So we um so I do really believe that, and I also thought occurred to me when I was beginning it, when I was in it, when I decided to do it. I came to New York, and then I went to LA for a while. And when I was in LA, I met a lot of Asian actors, and I realized there was an Asian acting community. There was a community of Asian actors that were really bonded and really into change and really into making a difference. And I realized that what I wanted was something that was not available unless I fought for it to happen. Like I was one of a member I was one of a group of people that fought for it to happen. In other words, you can't just go in and do it and say, oh yeah, I'm going to be an actor. How nice that, and I'm going to do what all the, you know, non-Asian people do to be actors. It's a very specific experience to be an Asian actor. It's a very specific experience, and it's fraught with um, um, uh, uh, things that we all know, that we all share with each other, which is why there needs to be a community, and that's why that community is so important. But it's also very unique to it. The things that are very unique to itself. The brand of discrimination we experience, the brand of misperceptions about us, the lack of opportunities for us, are all very unique to our community, I think. I mean, not that other people don't have the same, similar situations. Different minority groups have absolutely have their own situations, but ours are very unique. And so we are bound to each other and bonded with each other because of it. And we have a responsibility in some ways to push through these things and to fight for what we believe in and what we deserve and to just do our best work. And the other thing that is really true is that you have to be as good as you can possibly be. You can never be lazy. You can never be good enough. You have to be you have to be better in many cases than other people in order to compete, in order to be hired and to continue to sustain your work. And I find that I've always found that really fun. I'm super competitive. I really wanted to be good at what I did and I always work towards it and I never stop working and I never stop studying and I never stop practicing. And so if you're going into it thinking, oh, I have a good look and people told me that I'm kind of funny or whatever, and you're kind of like wishy-washy about it, I would not suggest it.
Real talk. Before I let you go, and that's great advice, by the way. I have to ask. The live action Mulan did get pushed, but I imagine that you're very
Yeah,
excited to see it. Or have you been
I
able to
am.
see it?
I
Oh,
haven't, no.
oh, you
No, it looks
haven't.
beautiful. It looks beautiful.
It does.
Yeah.
And what's your fondest memory of working on the animated feature in 1998?
Wow. It was such a unique experience, they're making those things is very weird. You're in a recording studio, you're not always with the other actors. It takes place over a very long period of time. It takes years to make the movies. So you'll go in for a stretch of a what's it called? A few different recording sessions with the script that as they currently have it set, and then they show you pictures and drawings of your character and all that stuff, and you can really get excited about it. And then you step away from that, and then they make these little kind of scratch drawing, storyboarded kind of presentations that they actually show like a movie with your voice in them. And then they rewrite the script, and they keep rewriting the script and keep rewriting the script, and you keep coming in again to re-record the rewrites of the script over a period of like 2 or 3 years. And then it's not until they lock the script that they start drawing the pictures. Or anyway, when Mulan is one of the last picture movies of this animated movies that where they actually drew the pictures. And so they wouldn't draw the pictures until the animation the script was locked. So then after the script, it's a long process, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's very technical and very different from any other kind of experience. So my greatest memory, well, I love going to Orlando, and you get to go to the park whenever you go to Orlando, so that's fun. And I don't know, to me it was a dream. It was an iconic kind of experience, and I'm always really happy to have touched my toe in that water. I just really enjoyed being a part of that world. I thought I never thought that would happen to me, so I was really into that. So I think that's the main takeaway for me is that part of the experience. It's going, wow, I think like they made an action figure out of him and stuff, and I thought, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's a very interesting thing to experience.
And is it true
Uh,
that you didn't sing I'll Make a Man Out
no,
of You? Okay,
I
that was
didn't.
but did you have to learn the lyrics or anything, or did you ever, I
I
mean, did
did
you
I
did
did
you
experiment with singing it, and then they hired Donny Osmond to sing it, and so they didn't like they told me, and this is what they told me, and you can tell me whether you believe it or not, that Donny Osmond's singing voice sounded more like my speaking voice than my singing voice sounded like my speaking voice. I don't know. That's a very
I'll
funny
have to
thing.
go back and watch, and I'll get back to you on that one.
It's a good
Yeah, none
match. I mean,
does.
it's a
It is a
perfectly
good
good match.
match.
Nobody really
It's a
thinks
good
about it.
match.
Yeah.
All
They know
right.
what they're doing over there. I don't know what to say. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. BD, this was so great to talk to you. Thank you for coming on to the Variety After Show. I wish I could X this out,
Thanks.
but this
That's okay.
question now, but it's a great question. Thank you for spending your precious time
I'll
with
do
us.
this. How about that?
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. This was such an insightful chat. I'm glad that we were able to make this work. I know it's late where you are, but yeah, thank you.
Yes. Don't stress out, everybody. Be nice to each other and like stay home and and follow the rules, and everything's going to be great. And watch Nora from Queen season 2, and all of that stuff. We really, Asian Americans or not Asian Americans, shows are made or broken by the support they get from their fans, and so we really, really appreciate the enthusiasm that has come from the media and from the fans. So thank you for all of that, because it makes what we're doing a lot more fun, because we really enjoyed the success of the show. All 4 of us, I think, really, really into it.
And it's a show that really feels like medicine right now, I think.
Yeah, it's right. It is. I mean, it's not. It's only asking of you to divert yourself for a minute so that you can kind of smile and have a giggle.
Amazing. Have a great night, and thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. You too. Bye, everybody.